बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं कैसर अहमद राजा। उम्मीद है आपकी तबीयत बिल्कुल ठीक होगी। आपको याद होगा कि कुछ वक्त पहले मैंने एक वीडियो बनाया था जिसमें मैंने जिक्र किया था इंजीनियर साहब के हवाले से और पाकिस्तान के एक ब्लॉगर कमेडियन है उसके हवाले से कि उन्होंने कैसे इंटरनेशनली जो इस वक्त एफर्ट्स हैं दीन के साथ लोगों को कनेक्ट करने के लिए किस तरह से उस सारे मामले को वो एक डिसरेप्यूट में कंट्रोवर्सी में लाने की उन्होंने कोशिश की और किस तरह से फिर उसके बाद फिर वो मामला अनफोल्ड हुआ और बाद में भी खैर उन लोगों ने अपोलोजाइज वगैरह नहीं किया। दैट्स वन ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम्स इन आवर सोसाइटी। खैर एनीवे आज हम उससे आगे बढ़ते हैं कि वो काम क्या था। ये लोग जानना भी चाहते थे, ये कमेंट्स में भी कुछ बातें इस तरह की। तो आज हमारे साथ हमारी दोनों बहनें मौजूद हैं, उम्मे हारिस भी हैं, उम्मे राहिल भी हैं, कि हम उनसे बात करेंगे कि वो प्रोजेक्ट क्या है, कैसे इनके प्रोजेक्ट का हिस्सा बना जा सकता है एंड एट व्हाट लेवल दे आर ऑपरेटिंग एट द मोमेंट। मैं अपनी दोनों बहनों को खुशामदीद कहूँगा। कैसी तबीयत है आप दोनों की?
जज़ाकल्लाह खैर वबरकातुहू। अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम वरहमतुल्लाह। बहुत बहुत
Assalamu
शुक्रिया।
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Kaisar bhai, for inviting us.
सच एन ऑनर। बहुत शुक्रिया आप दोनों ने वक्त दिया। ग्लोबल अवेकनिंग ये आपका प्लेटफॉर्म है। अगर ब्रीफली आप मुझे एक रन थ्रू कर दें कि व्हाट्स इज ऑल अबाउट, फिर उसके बाद फिर आपके जो स्पेसिफिक प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं इंशाल्लाह फिर हम उन पे चलेंगे। और जो ऑडियंस है उनसे मैं ये कहूँगा कि इफ़ यू कैन स्टिक टू द एंड, बिकॉज ऑनलाइन लर्निंग का फ़ायदा ये है कि यू डोंट हैव टू बी जियोग्राफिकली रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू अ पर्टिकुलर प्लेस। आप कहीं से भी ये प्रोग्राम्स ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं, ऑब्वियसली जो भी इसमें ऑनलाइन फैसिलिटीज़ हैं। तो लेट्स गेट straight through it, shall we? Global Awakening. Tell us briefly about it. ये क्या है?
So, the Global Awakening, the vision behind this whole project is about uniting Muslims globally, not through the man made ideologies, but of course through the divine system created and governed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that was the vision behind the whole Global Awakening project. And it's actually a call to return to the essence of our faith, to build a connection stronger than any worldly bond, and to align our lives with the ultimate purpose, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how are we going to do this? The answer is simple yet profound, that it can only be attained if our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surpasses every other relationship in this world. Either it is your parents, either it is your siblings, either it is your partner. It has to surpass every relationship in this world. And if our love for him outweighs our love for anything temporary, and if our purpose extends beyond materialistic short-term goals and is deeply rooted in the pursuit of eternal success. And I think that's how we'll be able to achieve this. So now this is not just a straightforward project, because it doesn't come with a clear roadmap. It doesn't come with a structured strategies or any predefined steps. No, it's not. Because this is not just a project, it's a journey, and a journey of transformation, self-purification, and unwavering faith. And the two
वाह,
most important qualities that is needed for this project is a courage and sacrifice. And based on those two qualities, inshallah, we will be able to achieve success in this project.
सच अ प्रोफाउंड थिंग टू से। और मैं ऑडियंस के लिए बता दूं कि हमारी ज़्यादा बात जो है वो इंग्लिश में होगी। इफ़ देयर इज़ एनीथिंग जहाँ पे आप समझते हैं कि आपको ज़रूरत है कि उसको आपको समझा दिया जाए, इफ़ यू मेंशन इन द कमेंट, आई विल डू माय बेस्ट टू गेट दैट ट्रांसलेटेड। Such a profound thing to say, courage and sacrifice, because you know sometimes one has to wonder, and I think our classical scholars, they have worked a great deal on this topic, that if you, for example, if you give the ultimate sacrifice, that is giving your life away for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, then what exactly have you achieved, or what is the big deal in that? Because that life was never yours to start with. So it belonged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then it was given back. So what's the big deal? But the answer is that the big deal it's not the fact that it was something that already belonged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it was taken back, but it was taken back through your conscious decision of giving it back. That is the sacrificial part. And that is the honored, not the actual returning of life. It's that decision that matters. So, mashallah, such a beautiful thing to say. So this is from, yes, please go.
More to it, it's like, it's actually, what is your ultimate goal? And if you know your ultimate goal, then I think, from there you look back and you focus on how you're going to achieve it. This is where it leads us to, because I think when we started this project, me and Sister Haris was saying that where do we see ourselves, on the day of judgment? Like, where are we acquiring? Which level are we acquiring towards? If it's a level where it's the highest level in Jannatul Firdaus, standing side by side with the righteous and the chosen ones, then the only two things that is really needed for us in this world is a courage and sacrifice. Otherwise, it's not attainable. It's not achievable. So your ultimate goal is a key. How you're going to be able to get to that?
That's wonderful. And the manifestation of that in form of projects like this, such a marvelous effort. So let's get into the projects. What are the main projects you are running at the moment?
So our first, which is our signature project, you can also say is a lifetime project. You can also call it. It's called Connect for Akhirah. And it's so close to my heart because this project can be called a one-stop for all, where we want to empower our Muslims through every stage of their life, starting from the marriage, going towards to parenting, to education, then entrepreneurship, and then the legacy building. And what we're aiming to nurture faith-centered connections, promote knowledge and inspire growth, both personally and within the community. And this is guided by the teachings of Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our mission is to unite the Ummah in fulfilling Allah's divine purpose. So this whole project is based on 4 phases. And the phase 1 is going to be divine bonds, where we will be focusing on the marriages based on the divine love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The core of the marriage has to be, the foundation of our deen has to be based on the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. And the reason why is because if you look at it, how the mankind was started, the foundation of humankind, and that is actually based on family. And we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started the world with husband and wife, Adam and Eve, as Adam Islam and as Hawa Islam. So the foundation of our deen is actually based on 2 individuals, and those 2 individuals create family with the purpose of understanding the deen and spreading it to the world. So what we are trying to create from that phase, which is our divine bonds, community that is going to break the societal norms based on the divine love, grounded in the teachings of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his Sunnah. Because I think sometimes we do not focus on the most important aspects of the marriage in Islam, and we actually just focus on the bits which is easy to take and just not focusing on the most important aspects. So we want to break those societal norms. We want to train the minds and youngsters from a very young age, and or the marriages which are not taken as normal marriages, or people will be questioning those kind of marriages, like for example the marriage of Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Hazrat Khadija, or the marriage with Hazrat Aisha. All these things, we want to normalize these things, and we want to make sure our training is starting from very intermediate level to the very advanced level, so that our youngsters are trained well in advance before they're actually stepping into the phase of the marriage. So this is our first, phase for the Connect for Akhirah project. Sorry.
Just permit me, we will go to the other phases. Let me bring quickly Sister Haris into it, because what you said, it's something which is, I'd like to have a comment on that. And I'd like Sister Haris to have her comment on that, is that connect for Akhirah. So it's not connect with Akhirah, because that is something that people do anyway. I mean, people always explain to other people that you have to do good deeds, so this is how you are connected with Akhirah and so forth. But much of that advice, it comes in form of abstraction. So there isn't anything specified steps, identified steps. This is how you do it, and then you are connected with Akhirah. But when you are saying connect for Akhirah, so this is a process we are talking about, not something which is an abstraction. But what you're saying is that you can connect yourself with Akhirah if you connect in this world for Akhirah. I think that's philosophically deep.
That is absolutely correct, because we are always focusing to go to connect with Akhira rather than connect for Akhira. And I think Sister Harris will be able to comment on this as she knows how, like, deep this can go.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair, May. Rahil, Jazakallah khair, Qaiser. For me, I'll bring in my own personal life perspective on this. And whatever we've discussed, I've lived through this in my life. And these principles were installed in my life from a very early age. Not because I come from a religious family. I don't come from a religious background. I was born in Pakistan, but I learned my deen in university here in the UK. So I was, as a teenager, my parents moved to the UK. I finished my high school here. And then when I went to university, I actually learned I had to break my own idols of being a Pakistani Muslim and entering into becoming a proper Muslim according to the Quran and the Sunnah and learn. I had to relearn. I had to choose being a Muslim, not a born Muslim. So I say I'm a Muslim by choice. And in order to figure that, I had to train my own parents along with my brother and myself. We both learned the deen together. We had to take our parents on a journey with us. And when it came to an important decision of marriage, my eyes were completely open at that time by attending courses and connecting with the people of knowledge that helped me to learn, in fact, make a checklist of what are the absolute essential and what I don't want in a partner. And why do I even want to get married at the first place? What does Islam bring in? Why marriage is so important? And it's never been taught to me as a Pakistani Muslim. I never learned all of that as a Pakistani Muslim. And I had to be strong. I decided I'm not going to go for coming from a medical background and coming from a affluent family, but I decided I'm not going to go for those things. I had to break those norms. I want to go for the person and connect for my akhirah and not connect for the worldly gains and then find akhirah within those gains. And that was a reform for myself. And when you do the istikhara, when you do all your homework, and you have to take your parents on board, it's not easy journey, but it's the one that gives you the benefit for the life in this dunya and akhirah, inshallah.
So there's a lot of empirical content that is derived from your own life experiences and then translating that into a project and then passing it on to other people. I guess this is what the essence of a religion is, that you always learn things from your experiences and then all the good things you pass them on to other people. That's such a wonderful thing. Anything else you'd like to add to it before we go back to Sister Omira?
Yes, sure. When Umair started talking about the Connect for Akhira project, coming back to the point of why the global awakening took place, one thing that shook my core as a young teenager was the point when I realized that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've created the men and the jinn to worship me. And also what happens when we go back to our creator. On the day of judgment, when we go back to our creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us, how long did you stay on the earth? Someone will say maybe a week. Someone will say a month. Someone will say it was just a dream. And for that period of time, are we going to lose the eternal happiness? The happiness in this world, we don't get happiness in this world as Muslims. We have to learn that. What we get is contentness, but the eternal happiness is in the akhirah. So are we going to do such a, how they say it in Urdu, such a sasta soda? Or in English, you're making a cheap trade.
Yeah.
And that's what was the driver behind myself to get involved, that, we had enough. We had enough. Look at the state of the Muslims around the world. Our teenagers are confused. The reason relationships are coming up are really bizarre. I worked as counseling for the teenagers in the UK for a long time. I've also worked as an emergency call handler for Muslim teenagers in crisis. And when you start looking at the problems, they're huge. We are only looking at the tip of the iceberg as parents. And if we do not realize, and if we do not connect our children with the right way to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only we are already lost, but we are going to lose for generations coming ahead, to a degree that we cannot then, we cannot even call ourselves as Muslims in the future if we don't act now. So we are in emergency crisis, and this is where we have to act. And me and Rahil, we have made personal sacrifices to start this journey.
Okay.
And we haven't done this for the dunya. Our gains are with, our rewards are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the journey of the TGA, how it started.
Inshallah. Well, may Allah bless you both. Right, Sister Rahil, the first step you've mentioned, the phase of the stage of it, that's about having the divine understanding of the Institute of Marriage. And well, let's get to the second part of it now, shall we?
Yeah, moving on to the second one, I just want to mention a little bit about what kind of training we are focusing on in this first phase, where I think Sister Halit was just mentioning, when she was a call handler and the people are coming to her with the issues like we have to resolve. We don't really train our the couples on domestic abuse and violence. We do not train our couples on infidelity issues. We do not train them on the partners with differing abilities, like the marriages in the, if you have a disabilities, mental or physical disabilities, how we can make it normalized, and we do not just segregate those kind of people. How we want to make sure we are embracing those people before looks, before any other aspects. So these kind of things, we need to focus on polygamy, we need to focus on family law and legal aspects of this. The things that is not being normalized in our Islamic culture or in our Pakistani and Indian culture, we want to make it normalized. Even the cross-cultural marriages, we always think, okay, look around you first. We do not focus on, no, look around the world where you will be able to bring this change, and you will be able to spread the Islam by doing cross-cultural marriages. We do not train on those things. So kids don't even know. They're just following the footsteps of their parents. They don't really know how to bring a bigger change, So that is one aspect I wanted to add into this, that we want to be focusing on while we are training for this phase one. And moving on. And the other thing is, when we are focusing on the marriages, we are not just going to get a couple married and we're just going to let them be. We are going to be there on each and every aspect of their life, starting from the marriages, starting before the marriages, all the way from their parenting aspect, which is going to be our phase two, which is going to be called Bidayatul Tarbiyah, where we will be beginning the journey of Islamic parenting, which does start from as soon as conceiving, all the way till the children are the age, up to their teenager age, so their whole parenting that is needed for this whole, age. How are we going to be able to do this? So this phase is actually designed for adults, where they will be starting their, journey from, for example, in our Islam, this says when you're 13, you're prepared for marriage, you're ready. But actually, obviously, in our in our society, you're not really. So I decided to do this from the age of 13. Like, will there be children all around the world who will be following this? At the age of 13, they are physically, mentally, emotionally prepared for the marriage or not? If not, then train them. So as early as possible. Why early marriages are not being normalized anymore? Because our training for the marriages are not there. So we are going to be making sure, like the adults who are aged 18 and above, they will be focusing on the parenting aspect, and they will be preparing themselves how to become a better parent, before the child is coming into the world. So the desired outcomes from this one is, if they can have a strong foundation spiritually, they can build the resiliency and adaptability in their children from a very young age, and they can prepare them and make them very confident Muslim individuals, and prepare them for the world that is going to be in front of them.
So you have regard to the differences among what differences in the jurisprudence. So the differences in fiqh, for example. So, for example, when you say 13, well, it doesn't have to be 13 across all the fiqhs. So the people who join the program, you will have regard for this flexibility that it may not be 13 across the board. Some fiqh, or maybe some sub part of it, it may actually go beyond that.
Of course, Brother Qaiser, because these days, at the age of 13, a child doesn't even know how to eat a food itself. Think about it. What we are trying to do is we are trying to come and intervene in that process and trying to cut off and trying to say, right, the age of 13 is actually that you should be prepared for being a man rather than you being in the house because you're not ready there. But that doesn't mean you have to get married at the age of 13. But it is not like, obviously how you're saying in the different fiqhs, there's a different school of thoughts. But what we are trying to do is we're trying to prepare our Muslim youngsters as early as they can be, so they can actually represent the world. They can actually be the leaders of the world. Because
Right.
if I look at me, there's a teenager's age 15, 16, because my son is also a teenager. So when I look around him and I look at the kids, at the age of 14, 15, they're fully ready to leave the house to become a man. And our parents are making sure our children do not leave the house forever because they're not even ready. They don't even have that mindset to be individual and independent, to be in the world. So that's what I was trying to say. We have to train them from a very young age on a very advanced level so they can be prepared for it. That doesn't necessarily mean they need to get married. But what that means is they should be prepared emotionally, psychologically, because they're physically prepared by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is no two ways about it. But are they prepared mentally to take this step? No, not at all. So that was the whole, purpose behind this.
Okay, fair enough. And I think you should be ready to have some kind of, not necessarily a backlash, but a sort of a counter opinion on that, on the basis that when it comes to the matters of fiqh, now on individual basis, people are free to choose whatever fiqh they want to choose. But when it gets to the statutory level, the state itself may assume the status of a mujtahid, and it can implement its own fiqh and say, for example, the minimum age to get married is, for example, 18 or 19. That would depend on the circumstances that they have in a particular state. But so on one side, what you're saying is that it's not about getting married at the age of 13, but it's about having that sort of mental capacity and the emotional and physical readiness that this is what we are heading towards, and the age of 13 that training should kick in. But on the other hand, if there is a state, for example, that decides that the minimum age is 16 or 17 or 18, but that is something that you're okay with. It's not the fact that it's not the case that you're saying that, oh no, because we said 13, therefore it has to be 13.
No, exactly. That's what it is. We are trying to prepare. We are trying to prepare them as young as we can, according to the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, according to, if you look around, the teenagers in Islam, how their mindset was. And for example, Hazrat Ali ibn Talib, how he at the age of 10 was a warrior and what kind of mindset he had. If you look at Imam Shafi'i, at the age of 13, he was, Imam. So if we look at the comparison of our teenagers these days with these, role models we have, they're nowhere there. They're nowhere there. And they need to make sure they are actually touching each aspect of their life, not just one aspect, and they're just going to become pro in that. They have to make sure each aspect of their life is being touched. And they should know the answers to the questions. Anybody coming and asking them, regardless of the religion, if non-Muslim is coming and asking them, they should be knowing the answers because we have answers in front of us. So it's all about training them very young to give them that precedence.
Okay, fair enough. And I think the idea of connecting people individually with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that they all feel the collective connection, particularly within the context of husband and wife, is such an amazing concept. Because from the visualization point of view, if you look at a triangle shape, or if you look at a pyramid, for example, if you look at the top end where they join, and if you are to take one line, that's husband's line, other line is the wife's line, and then they ask themselves how close they are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. An interesting thing is that the closer they are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, automatically closer they will be to each other as well. because they both are pointing towards the same thing. So if they are right at the top end, very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, both of them, naturally they will be very close to each other. But the further away they go from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, further away they will go from each other as well. So making that marriage, making the foundation of it purely with the connection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, the bypass, or the byproduct of that is, not bypass, sorry, byproduct of that is that it's the actual closeness and the affection and love that one ought to have in the family, well, that will come in automatically. That's fantastic. So now we've covered the second part of it. Let's move the third aspect of the project, shall we?
So moving on to the phase 3, that is going to be called Ilmul Marifa, which is a deep understanding. So where we are focusing on the Quranic STEAM education for future scholars, not STEM education, we are going to add A into it, which is representing the art. The art is the nature that is around us. And I think to understand the concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to look around. And I think we're so indulged into STEM fields, we are actually missing out the most important part, which is an art, which is our nature. So what we are trying to do is, in this one, we're going to prepare our young scholars for excellence in Quran-centered STEAM education, which will be Quran-centered. And also, we will be driving some aspects from the Seerah when we will be doing this phase, so we can develop a profound understanding of the universe through Islamic principles. And one most important part in this course is going to be teaching our youngsters the subject of politics from a very young age, which is 7+. From 7-year-old, children will be equipped on the concept of politics. I don't know about Pakistan, but over here, if my daughter is in the school and she will talk about politics, they will not be allowed to. They will be like, oh, politics is dirty. We can't talk about it. But we need to change the concept of politics in their mind, that why it is very important. Why it is very important for the children to understand these along with the other subjects, which is, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But why politics should be really important subject. And that was I think the key point we wanted to focus in our STEAM education, which we want to do. And that will be, again, through homeschool. Of course, that will be our first priority, but we are trying to connect our global mosques together. If they can come together, we use all the mosques around the world to give them that, platform for all the Muslims coming to the mosque, so we can educate them through there, not just on the Quran, not just on just the basics of Quran. We can actually guide them and give them this kind of comprehensive and intense education through our mosques. Inshallah, if Allah wills, that happens. So that is our third, phase.
Fantastic. My special prayers for that particular aspect, converting mosques into community centers and community building centers, because mosques in the classical Islamic era have always been a lot more than a mere place of prayer where people go and pray and that's it. Much of community building actually took place through mosques. And there are traditions that tell us that even much of the government business used to occur on the premises of mosques as well. But then somehow over the course of forthcoming centuries, we reduced the concept of mosque or masjid just to a place where you go for a few minutes, pray and come out. And if you are recreating that history, sister, my special prayers for that, because I've been for a very long period of time thinking, is there someone who could do that? I couldn't because of the things I'm doing. I'm far too busy in that. But now, if anyone has started anywhere in the world like this, I only hope that it gets extrapolated across the Islamic Ummah, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Qaiser, because I think, since we thought about this, we also had a project called Isha to Fajr Nightclub, which started from Glasgow, to be honest, from a very local mosque where my son used to go. And the idea came from there, where they changed the whole concept of a Friday. I don't know if you're familiar with UK, weekend mindset, where it's a Friday night and they say, right, let's go out for clubbing. And that mindset was there. Okay, what are you up to tonight? Well, we are going out. And going out means what? I wanted to redefine this thing, that how can we change our youngsters, they are thinking about, right, we are in the same people, because obviously they're going to the schools, they have these non-Muslim friends around them who are talking about this. We are in minority here, but how can they add value to their Fridays, And then our local mosque came up with this project saying, let's do Isha to Fajr nightclub, where children are coming to the mosque, they are enjoying at the same way. They do some kind of research-based tasks there. They find the value coming to the mosque themselves, so they run to the mosque on every Friday night, and they're there for a Qiyam al-Layl as well. And they stay there all night. They're playing PlayStation, whatever it is. It's all about halal gathering, but giving the definition of the Friday night club and changing it to something that is they can look up to and they can be proud of as well. And alhamdulillah, this is doing really well, because some people have also started in Lahore, and few of the people are also doing in America as well. So if we can engage our youngsters and teenagers into the mosques through different kind of research-based tasks on a regular basis, inshallah ta'ala, our mosques will be becoming research-based institutes in future, just rather than just keeping them as place of worship.
That's wonderful. Okay, well, I think we have the one more aspect to go through, and then we'll go to Sister Harris to go to the other areas of discussion, not necessarily that one project, but the other thing. So the final phase.
Yeah, the phase 4, I think, is also Harriet's phase, where she wanted to connect the Muslims and make it as a Muslim networking. So I think she can also go over to this phase, but the only difference is that in this phase, we will be focusing on entrepreneurships only, where we are not focusing our children to going into the careers. We wanting to make them entrepreneurs, and they will be there. They will be the leaders of their own selves, rather than they will be working for other people. But at the same time, we have another project where we are also focusing on those individuals who want to go into the career, which Sister Harriet will be able to go into the deep. So overall, this whole Connect for Akhira project is something that is a lifetime project, and it's our dream that if people are connected with us through this project, they are with us forever. They can have the trust, and they can rely on that platform, that we are not going to get straight. We are not going to be alone at any aspect of our life, regardless of what circumstances they are going to be in. So they have somebody in their life to look up to, and the one thing that we're trying to focus on, if we will be able to have that 24/7 line for all those people who are anywhere in the world, and connect them through some kind of, if we will be able to get to the phase 4 of the networking, which is Muslim networking, and we can connect the individuals based on their skills and stuff, that line will always be open for any Muslim around the world if they're stuck. And it's not like they are looking for the answers going to this imam or going to this person. They have everything under one umbrella, and they can just, find the answer they're looking for. So the only way it can happen is if we unite together. And it's never going to happen if you're playing nafsi. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think the moment is right to bring Sister Harris into it. Sister Harris, take us through the fourth phase, please.
I think before I go into the details of the fourth phase, just a few comments and add on to the points that Rahila has already mentioned. That one of the things that we've been learning this as children, whether you've lived anywhere in the world and you've been taught that Muslims are one body. We are one body, and if one part of the body pains, the other part of the body pains. If you have a migraine, can you have a wonderful day? And if you can't have a wonderful day because you've got a migraine, you shouldn't be having a wonderful day when one part of the Muslims are being discriminated against, or there's a genocide going at one place, or if you're doing economically so well. When I come to Pakistan, that's one thing I find really difficult to live with, that we are driving by to a luxurious place to live in, but we are driving by slum areas. So we have really killed our conscience. So the problem is that's because we have lost the true connectivity. The connectivity in our lives as an everyday Muslim comes in for the dunya, not for the deen. That's why the entire project is Connect for Akhirah. We, not only for marriage, but in every field of our life, we need to connect for our Akhirah. not for the dunya. And if we do not change that perspective, we are bound to suffer. Like Dr. Seerah Ahmed used to say, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made his beloved nation of Bani Israel that was beaten up by Romans. And now this is same thing is happening to the Muslims, and they're being beaten up by those that nation which was beaten up by Romans. And it's a deep one to sink in. And this is what Rahil ended up with, that if we do not stop playing nafsi nafsi, that, oh, my life is perfect. And unfortunately, that was me just a few years ago. I'm a high earner. My husband's a high earner. My kids can go to private school. I have a beautiful life. I'm praying 5 times a day. I'm doing my charity and I'm doing some voluntary work, and that's enough. That gives me peace of mind. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pulls your rope, then you realize we have to hold on to that rope all together, not individually. And that togetherness comes from our phase 4, and that's the reason behind phase 4. And I will just at this point share our website.
Please do.
To kind of go in a bit more detail, because we've talked enough. So when you go on the website is globalawakening.co.uk. So when you, as you can see, it's globalawakening.co.uk. And you go on the website, you can see all our projects here, Connect for Akhirah. And all the 4 phases that Rahil has spoken about are here. And the 4th phase, like we discussed, it's about bringing entrepreneurship back to the Muslim youth, in the hands of the Muslim youth. And all our objectives are detailed here. And I would really encourage people to come and have a look and be part of it. You can join the platform through our website as well. And one of the things is that, when we look at what happened before Balfour Declaration, what happened with Theodore Herzl, what kind of strategies he brought in. Yes, their mindset would have been different. Our mindset is for Akhirah, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as a Khalifa on the earth for the entire creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just for the Muslims. So if we have that mindset and we use the strategies and we learn the strategies that we have to do within the ethical mindset, we'll be able to make a much better difference. And that only comes from connectivity. And that's where we go to the Holistic Muslim Networking platform. And this platform will allow not only entrepreneurship, but, for example, if I am working as a doctor in one country, I can connect with all the doctors around the Muslim worlds, or anywhere in the world with the same specialty. That will help us to create our own systems. And, we can have our own LinkedIn platforms. We can have our own YouTubes. We can have our own Facebook, not with those names, but with the names that we choose, where we can connect and we are not being censored to discuss things morally and ethically as it should be discussed. Who is stopping us to do that? No one except our own selves. And when we come back to this ayah here, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, that is only able, unfortunately, now we are divided in so many sects that if you say, oh, let's join all the Sunnis, we will struggle. Let's join all the Shias, we'll struggle. Let's put all those things on side. Let's just join together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and strengthen each other. When a non-Muslim is going to look at you, they won't look at you as a Sunni or a Shia or Brelvi or whatever. They will look at you as a Muslim. And they're not going to, not discriminate against you if you're from a sect and not from another sect. So let that sink in, and let's stand together. And that's what this project is about. So inshallah, with this, we are looking at the students when they are in the schools. They don't know, often I go to schools and I give talks on World Hijab Day or things like that. I ask both Muslims and non-Muslim students, I say, what do you want to do? A lot of them don't have an answer. They don't know what they want to do. They don't even know what interests them anymore. They're so saturated with the social media. So here, the guidance is for the students. We will make those students have, link into the university professionals. So university students, the school students, and the university students will be linked to the, careers that they want to go into. And those who are young professionals will be connected to the mature professionals. And that will be a chain of events. So for example, if my son doesn't know what he wants to do, he'll have an opportunity to go into so many different workshops, career workshops, or connect with so many different professionals to be able to figure out what interests him, what kind of things he can do, and what is moral and ethical as well. So inshallah, that's what this project is about. So, it's sharing opportunities, drawing career path, pulling each other up the ladder on careers, and also having the guidance and creating new businesses, creating new models and platforms, inshallah. That's the aim behind this. So that one is Muslim LinkedIn project. Then Rahil has already spoken about Isha to Fajr clubs. And this is something, is happening at small levels in different cities. But I think that's one thing majorly lacking in Pakistan, for example. For example, just in the Ramadan, my kids are very young at the moment. They're in primary school, but they absolutely love Ramadan. They love going to the masjid. They take their little bags and they go and do the whole Taraweeh prayer. They get so upset if we have a Ramzan iftar invite somewhere because they miss their Taraweeh. So that's the kind of initiative we want in every household, so we can connect back to the masajid. The final part I will talk about Earn as you learn, and that project is very close to our hearts. In this project, what we want to do is we want to make a balance. We want to, as the ladder is shown here, we want to make sure that those from the deprived part of our community can be uplifted. And they can be uplifted through this ladder of pulling them up. So, those children who are from the deprived background, not only they will learn, but when they are learning, they will also earn. So we are using the privileged to the unprivileged for the teaching methods here. So that's overall what different projects are. And how are we implementing these are through different courses as well.
Let's get to that. But if I may just have a couple of follow-ups on that.
Yes, please.
When we say, sorry, can we just minimize the screen for a second so we can have a better interaction? And then we'll put the screen back up on. Okay, that's wonderful. So going through the entire project that you mentioned, that it's about linking people together, and then it's about, well, at the initial stage, obviously linking everyone together, and then from within that, we have the specialized niches. For example, the people of medical backgrounds, they can have their own sub-connectivity, and the people who are, for example, more of researchers, they can have their own, and the students, they can have their own. Business people, they can have their own, but ultimately it is about connecting people together. Now, that is fantastic. It is wonderful. But from the logistical side, if you're making the masjid, the core of it, I don't know how many mosques we have on this planet. I'd imagine it will be hundreds of thousands, but most of them are still not even, they have this problem of recognition that, they don't recognize themselves. What is the purpose of my existence? Because most of them are in existence because it just is a place where people go and pray and then go away. All the other functions and features, even the people who are running the masajid, even they are not aware of whether these are also purposes of the same institute. So, do you have some sort of plan in mind that on one side you are trying to connect people together through mosques and the digital platforms that will be connected to the masajid, but on the other hand, educating masajid that you need to take part in this community building network, because as I said, most of them are not even aware of what a masjid ought to achieve in the community.
So, I'll give you this one example that will help you, and in fact, help the audience as well. A long time ago, there was a crisis in the medical department. where the children coming to get MRI scans done, they had to undergo anesthesia. And that has its own risk for very young children. Yani you're talking about kids under 5 years of age. They will look at this huge machine and they get scared, they get phobia, they don't want to go under it. So what the researchers came up with, they looked at the end user analogy. So anything that we want to do, we first need to look at the end user. Who is the end user here? And the end user here are the children, not the parents, not the doctors, the children. So the idea came up that they designed an MRI scanner with Finding Nemo theme. So the children, when they looked at this, they will first see an episode of Finding Nemo, and then they will go under the scanner really happy. Do you know the significance of reduction in anesthesia cases dropped below 50%?
Wow.
In those circumstances, because
Just by doing that.
MRI scanner was used for the end user. Now, where did the demand come from? The demand came from the end user. So
Right.
the thing is that those who are going to the masajids, they don't know why they are going. They don't, where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
But the will is not there. So the education is the key. And the problem is that if I don't know what I want from the masjid will not provide me that.
Okay. So you want the masjid goers to take that responsibility and the ownership so they can get the okay. All right, that's from strategic view, then it makes sense.
That's one aspect of it. It has to be a holistic approach.
Sure.
But that's one of the key part of it. And that comes from education.
Okay.
So and the other parts of it are, of course, there is another thing. If 5 of us are sitting together and that person who is most influential picks up a glass of water, most likely the other 3 or 2 people at least will pick up a glass of water as well.
Yeah.
So when those who are when things start changing, it's going to take time, but it will have a ripple effect.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So it's sort of a snowball effect. We can expect that it may be slow and small at the initial stages, but as the snowball hits the downhill, with the time it gets bigger and faster. Fair enough. I mean, we have seen that happening time and again. That's all good. Wonderful. Up until now, we have discussed what the platform is all about and what the underlying rationale is. But now let's go to the more individual aspects of it. For example, you have the courses tab there. Can you help us understand what sort of courses you offer? If you take any one of them, then I will ask follow-up questions on that.
Sure. So we have planned quite a few courses. At the moment, we have upcoming course, Arabic in 40 days. We have an ongoing course called Seerah course for kids, which is available free, of course, on our YouTube channel. We run the prophetic seerahs, starting from Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam to all the Anbiya. It's done in a very different way where the children learn a lot more than what they will learn just from any book. And our current course that is running at the moment from the 1st of Ramadan is the prophetic strategies and planning course. And we've already released the first 4 sessions are free of cost on this. And the first 3 sessions are available on our YouTube channel. And the 4th session is coming up on the coming Saturday.
Right. That's prophetic strategies and planning. Now, sister, one thing when it comes to the Seerah-based courses, I have seen, and I'm sure many of us have seen, that there is a pattern that we, in an abstract way, tell people what Holy Prophet ﷺ did. And that's it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that itself has no value, because at the end of the day, it helps you learn the person that we follow as part of our Iman. However, what I feel like is that the contextual aspect is missing, because much of information is given in an abstract way. So there isn't a particular context of, say, for example, politics, or a context of being the husband, or a context of being the diplomat. I mean, all those things have been led by Holy Prophet ﷺ. So how does your course differ than many other training programs and many other books that we find on Seerah?
Jazakallah khair, Brother Qaiser, for asking such a interesting question. Very valid question. Um, Indeed, you're right. There are lots of Seerah courses. I attended when I was young as well from Sheikh Yasir Qadi and also from many other scholars. However, I haven't come across a Seerah course where not only that we are learning the timelines of from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also what it took for the early Muslims in terms of strategies and planning for their economical, political, and you know how to what's the phase like in the Meccan period of the early Muslims, and how does that relate to us in the present day, and what kind of strategies were used. And those strategies are so well studied by the non-Muslims compared to the Muslims, including the military strategies. There are books written on our ghazwat, from Ghazwa Badr to all the other ghazwat, by the non-Muslims. And as Muslims, we don't know that about the Seerah. So it's really important that not only we know the timeline, but we also know what kind of strategies were used and how they're related to us in the present day. And how do we need to navigate our lives according to the Seerah as it should be done. And that's what makes this course different, that we are learning the methodologies and the prophetic strategies from economical, from political and military perspectives, and relating that in our today's life.
That's fantastic. I think it would be beneficial if you go back to the website and so people can actually see.
So when you go to the website, you will see the courses that are open for registration and those which are coming up in the future. So I will not go into these details, and I'll go back to the prophetic strategy course.
Okay.
And so when you go to the prophetic strategy course, you can see it's a 1-year course and there's one class per week. And the prices are different for Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and the UK. So every region, we don't want those who are from the eastern side to miss out because of the prices in the western side. And just to mention again, this is not for profit platform. So all the prices that are being paid are most of the money is given to the teachers and the the course modulators.
Right.
Or the running of the platform. So that's what this course is. And then you can see this course is divided into 3 phases: the pre-Islamic Arabian Peninsula, Meccan period, and then the Madani period. And again, every single stage, you'll be able to get a lot more out of it than you will do from any other Seerah course.
Okay, that's wonderful. And this is much different, obviously, and this is different in a way that, look, if I want to learn about something, then I want to be able to apply that. And I think that's one of the differences between people learning something and being able to apply and people learning something and not being able to apply is that context. And it reminds me when I was back in school, for example, I think I've shared this quite a few times in different lectures, that when in the maths class, when our teachers would tell us that 2 + 2 is 4, or the basic subtraction, for example, if you have 10, take 5 out, and you are left with 5. It was so easy to understand because there was always a context in which we could apply that knowledge. So, for example, go to a shop and buy something of 5 rupees, give the shopkeeper 10 rupees, and we only learned it yesterday that I should be able to get 5 rupees back. And lo and behold, there is 5 rupees back. So learning is easy because you learn it in a school and then you see that happening in practice because the context is there. But the moment our teachers would go to, if you resolve a plus b squared, the answer is a squared plus b squared plus 2ab, of no idea in what context of life are we going to apply that. So we remember that as somebody taught us that, but we still don't know what that means. And the difference is because there is no context. So mashallah, may Allah reward you for making the course of Seerah in a way in which you are talking about the strategies and planning. So you have the context of life in which you can apply those. So it is no longer an abstract piece of information. It actually is something which is actionable. And I think this is something what we've been missing in many of the courses that are out there.
Yeah. And like I said, the first 4 episodes will be available on our YouTube channel. The first 3 sessions are done. So anyone who wants to look into that and see it for themselves. They don't have to sign up for the course, and they can first go to the YouTube and listen to these lectures online. And
Okay.
inshallah, that will really help to understand the context that I was talking about. And
Okay.
I hope you can then put the link in this video so people can then inshallah.
Sure, that will be done, inshallah. And the course itself primarily is in English language, I take it?
Yes, it's a prophetic strategies course in English.
Right. And are there any plans to make it multilingual as well, maybe in future?
Would you
No?
like to answer that, Amira? We've been debating about it yet.
Yeah, okay.
So
This course is already happening in Pakistan in Urdu, where the teacher is also doing the same course in Urdu. But the reason why we want the same students to do Urdu as well as in English, they will be able to connect to a wider audience. Because sometimes, you're doing the course in two languages, will be able to give you a broader perspective. And I think that was one of the things that I was saying, like, we really need to focus our Pakistani audience to, of course, yeah, do it in Urdu, but as well as in English, because they are going to take it to the world, and how they will be able to represent if they don't have the international language there to be able to communicate that Seerah to the world. So yeah, happening in Urdu in Pakistan as well.
Okay, I think it's another way by which we can look at it is that if now with the help of the AI, for example, you can have one training delivered in multiple languages simultaneously. So maybe it's something to look into. Maybe. I'm just thinking out loud that if we have that facility, AI run multilingual courses, so the same course can be taken in many different languages. And the follow-up discussion on that could become part of the Arabic in 40 days, or maybe more than 40 days in this case, because the course itself is 12 months long. So if you ask people to learn the course in whatever language, but then you also have the Arabic in 40 days, and we can have a follow-up discussion forum in Arabic language course, but the discussion in that forum will take place about the Seerah course, but only in Arabic language. So this way, not only people will have the wider connectivity, but also they will have better communication skills in Arabic language. And I think if we are to connect people together globally, Muslims together, there are going to be certain underlying premises upon which we can build that community. So that is Sharia itself, ethical values itself. But how about the language? We can also connect people through languages as well, can't we? So if we can have not just this Seerah-based course, but all the other courses that you can do it in whatever language, but the follow-up discussion only in Arabic language. So maybe that could be something you can think about. Again, I'm not making a very robust case for it because I am thinking as I am speaking. So it's not a compelling case I'm delivering here, but just a thought. Maybe something that if you think it's something you can put in place, maybe something for future.
it's a very good suggestion. And in fact, if you go back and look how Hebrew was revived and how it has now become a language of Israel, and how it's been implied on the rest of the world in certain different elements as well. And compared to that, Arabic is already a well-established language, and many multiple countries speak it. And I'm learning Arabic myself, and my children are learning Arabic from a young age. You're absolutely right. And that's what we aim to promote, that we need to know the language of the Quran is the best language to discuss and understand. Sometimes it takes like a lot in English to explain one word from the Quran. So the language of the Quran is not easy. So Fusha is the best language that we can go forward with. But inshallah, with the training and with the courses coming up, that's the level we can achieve in the future, inshallah.
And if I can add one more point there, that one of our projects is actually based on translating the whole Global Awakening website into 1,000 plus languages, and including obviously the providing the translation of Quran. in above 1,000 plus languages as well. We have started working on that side as well. But where you're saying that, if your course is coming for Arabic in 40 days and we are doing Seerah at the moment, how to interconnect them two together based on the language aspect, I think is such a brilliant idea that we will be able to, it's like a transdisciplinary learning kind of techniques where you're connecting different courses with the same kind of purpose, and the language will be a key for it, where we'll be able to, use that skill and enhance the whole theme of the Seerah, and it can again, as you said, we'll be able to, understand to the whole world, inshallah.
Inshallah, Aziz. Well, thank you very much indeed for this overview. Now, this is one course that you talked in detail, that's prophetic strategies and planning, but there are other courses as well. So if you can kindly just take us through briefly what are the upcoming programs you have.
So, like I said, these are the 3 courses which are open at the moment. The kids course is free, but enrolling for that helps you to download the materials in the future for when we're doing the prophetic stories. The upcoming courses, we have a few, IA versus AI, and we all know AI is being hyped, and I wouldn't go into the details of these at the moment. They are for another time. But just to say, this is bringing back our perspective of Islam and AI together, mastering Islamic economic principles for business. And I think that again will be a very important course in the future, because in the schools, the children are not taught finance. They're taught maths, but they're not taught finance. So inshallah, our plan is that with the homeschooling and also for the adults as well, they understand their finances, investments, and economic very well in the future, inshallah. Then we have first aid, med fusion, and that project is to ensure that as much as possible, we train anyone and everyone in joining our platform on first aid and be able to provide basic medical help when it's needed. Lead to Jannah is a project where it's based on teenagers and helps them to understand what kind of path they need to embark on that leads them from the personal growth, success, and the path to Jannah, inshallah. And then we have a kids leadership plan. And the main aim behind that is that leadership should come to our kids from a young age, and that needs to come through mentorship and through giving them confidence. But like you said, inshallah, and for another day, as we launch these courses, we'll go into the details of these.
Thank you very much indeed. May Allah bless you both for this tremendous effort. अब जो पैगाम है आपका वो दुनिया तक पहुंच चुका है। ख़वातीन हज़रात, जो वेबसाइट के लिंक्स हैं, जो ट्रेनिंग कोर्सेज हैं, उनके लिंक्स हैं, वो आपको इस वीडियो की डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएंगे। एनीथिंग एल्स जो आपको फॉलो अप चाहिए वो कॉन्टैक्ट इन्फॉर्मेशन भी साथ होगी, सो यू कैन कनेक्ट विद सिस्टर्स। हमारी दुआएं इनके साथ हैं। एंड दिस इज़ समथिंग व्हाट आई वांटेड टू आउट टू यू आउट इन टू द वर्ल्ड के ये वो प्रोजेक्ट है जिसको डिसरिप्यूट में लाने की कोशिश की गई, जिसको कंट्रोवर्शियल बनाने की कोशिश की गई। अब आप मुझे बताएं कि इसमें से कोई चीज़ ऐसी नज़र आई आपको कि जिस पे कोई आदमी को एतराज़ कर सकता है, या किसी आदमी को इसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट में लाने की कोई इवन रिमोटली भी कोई कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि वो नाम चेंज हो गए और ये हो गया और वो हो गया। आई मीन फॉर दोज इम्बेसिल्स जो ये क्लेम कर रहे थे कि ये लोग वहाँ पे डरते हैं और इस्लाम के नाम लेने से इसलिए इनको अपने नाम भी चेंज करने पड़ते हैं और ये हैं, जबकि यहाँ पे इस लेवल पे भी बातें की गई हैं कि वो बातें जो पाकिस्तान में बात करते हुए लोग शर्माते हैं कि बच्चे बच्चियों की अर्ली एज में शादियाँ, उनको मेंटली प्रिपेयर करना, यहाँ पे वो पूरे एतमाद से कहा, पूरी ऑनरशिप के साथ कहा गया, अनअपोलोजेटिकली कहा गया कि दैट्स पार्ट ऑफ आवर ट्रेडिशन एंड दैट इज़ व्हाट वी स्टैंड बाय। शर्म आनी चाहिए उन लोगों को कि जो बजाय इसके कि हमारी इस तरह की बहनों को सपोर्ट करें कि वो उस वेस्ट में रहते हुए जहाँ पे पूरा पैराडाइम ऐसा है कि जो आपको इस्लामिक प्रैक्टिस करने के लिए वो डिज़ाइन नहीं है, और ऑब्वियसली ना ही उनकी इस्लाम उनके जहन में इतनी अहमियत रखता है कि वो उसको उस तरह से डिज़ाइन करें, तो वहाँ से एक्सेप्शंस क्लेम करते हुए एक नया पैराडाइम बनाना मुसलमान बच्चों के लिए, तो उनकी सपोर्ट करने के बजाय इस तरह से डिस्ट्रीब्यूट पे लेके आना, मेरे ख्याल में इस सारी प्रोजेक्ट की एक्सप्लेनेशन के बाद शर्म आएगी उन लोगों को। दे विल पुट एन एंड टू इट। हया आएगी कि आखिरकार उनको भी कुछ ना कुछ तो कोई ज़र्फ तो होगा, एटलीस्ट आई होप होगा। बट फॉर नाउ आपसे मैं इजाज़त चाहूँगा। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका। अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू।